Fucking terrible. Yeah, all of them.
Schroeder didn't want that three. Give it to the hottest Warrior. Curry's got another one. 3 threes.
The Golden State Warriors finally get a win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Is this a sign of life in Golden State, or is this more reflective of the fact that the Timberwolves are close to rock bottom? Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Switch Culture. The Warriors are now 15-12, good for 8th place in the standings ahead of the Suns, Timberwolves, and yes, the Kings. The Western Conference seems to be rearranging itself every few weeks, so despite being almost 30 games into the season, there's still a lot of shuffling and a long way to go before it becomes clear who the frontrunners are. For perspective, the Bucks have the same record as Golden State and currently sit 5th in the East. This most recent win helps the Warriors snap a 3-game losing streak that goes back to when the team played against, you guessed it, the Timberwolves back on the 8th of December with almost identical scoring results overall. This game, however, went quite a bit different. Steve Kerr started with a crazy lineup in a game that ended with Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins being the heroes of the night. But seriously, what the heck is going on with Minnesota? It's not just the Warriors that don't look like who they were at the beginning of the season. The Timberwolves seem to be falling apart at the seams and seem to have lost all confidence after getting destroyed by Karl Anthony Towns, whom the team traded to the Knicks to start the season. Lots to break down in this matchup, so keep watching to the end if you're interested in how this breaks down and what this means for the Warriors going forward. Before that, however, be sure to like the video and subscribe to Switch Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content on the planet. Now get ready. You're about to get The latest Warriors win against the Timberwolves means a lot of things. What it doesn't mean, however, is that the Warriors have figured out their issues. The team still hasn't figured out its starters 27 games into the season, despite a mid-season trade acquiring Dennis Schroeder to replace DeAnthony Melton. Despite talking up Jonathan Kuminga to take some of the load off Steph Curry and play a larger role with larger minutes, he was quickly removed from the starting lineup, with the team reverting back to Draymond with no sound reasoning. I don't want to bore you with all the details, but Draymond had a hot shooting night off the bench against Dallas in a game that saw Luka Doncic go off for 45 unstoppable points. After looking at all the lineups since then, it's clear Steve Kerr pins that on Kuminga. If you recall, when Melton was healthy, the Warriors had what seemed to be their ideal starting five: Curry, Melton, Wiggins, Green, and TJD. Kerr vocally committed to that lineup. However, when Melton went down, we saw more iterations of this team than names on a United Healthcare deniers list. The ideal scenario for the Schroeder trade was that he would be the replacement for Melton. Prior to his arrival, however, Kuminga was in the starting lineup. Schroeder would have been the perfect backup point guard, and the Warriors would have been able to continue running the big lineup to take advantage of their size while utilizing Schroeder off the bench as a creator and scorer for the second unit, especially in light of how badly Pod has been playing. I also mentioned that Steve Kerr might just go ahead and put Dennis into the starting lineup, after which I found out Dennis only seemed interested if he was going to play a starting role. Considering the two-guard slot was the only one that seemed to be a problem at the start of the season, you'd think that everything else would sort itself out. Except it didn't. Once Dennis started, Kerr switched his lineups again, playing Draymond next to Kevon, a move that resulted in disaster against Memphis. With Dre out with ankle issues, you'd think Kerr would put Kuminga back into the starting lineup. But no. Kyle Anderson, a personal favorite of mine by the way, was put into the starting role. More so than anything, I do believe this was a strategy by Kerr to throw off Rudy Gobert, considering the history between him and Kyle, and to be honest, it might have been agreed upon by the team to allow him to have that matchup to be on the floor at the same time. While the matchup strategy works if you don't have a defined starting lineup, the team is too far into the season to keep switching players. This takes away from continuity, confidence, and it forces players to continuously have to develop chemistry with a new group. This makes it easy for teams to scout them due to the default offense, easy to defend them since the decision-making will be suspect, and easier to break them apart as they're still trying to figure out how to flow next to each other on the court, except for when they play zone defense. At best, the strategy allows the Warriors to play matchups, but at worst, we end up with a fourth-year Kuminga who won't exactly have played enough to properly adjudicate his ceiling and will likely be moved at the end of the season to a hungry young team looking for a power wing that can get to the line to help close games. The Warriors played with house money in this particular matchup because, as I said before, the Timberwolves haven't been playing particularly well with the problems brewing between their starting players. Things took a turn for the worse when the Knicks came in and shredded Minnesota with the same player that the Timberwolves couldn't wait to get rid of in the beginning of the season. While it was a move they did for financial reasons, it was either Cat or Gobert. With Rudy now being Minnesota's #1 big man, considering the emphasis this team now places on size and defense, it was a key decision they had to make, and it was one the Knicks are so far making them regret. Neither Randall, Edwards, nor Gobert seem to be fond of each other despite the players making a push to mend fences.
Sure. Y'all bring it together. We've been trying to figure this out for the whole year, man. We thought this was defense was our identity, and it's not looking like it at all. We don't know what our identity right now. Me and Mike was talking about. I think we soft as hell, like as a team, internally. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not to the other team, but like internally, like we soft. Like we can't talk to each other. Just a bunch of little kids. It's just like we playing with a bunch of little kids. Like everybody, like the whole team. We just can't talk to each other, you know. And we gotta figure it out, man, because we can't go down this road.
Watching these guys play, freezing each other out of possessions, and being disconnected reminds you that things aren't well in Mini, and a losing streak might see the whole thing crumble. This brings us to the Warriors. It's clear that the Timberwolves have worse problems than Golden State. This is not to say the Warriors are all honky-dory, of course, because despite the win, Minnesota almost had a comeback. Had the Warriors continued with closing out as poorly as they've had in the past, it would have been yet another loss. Both teams came out slow offensively, with the Warriors scoring most of their first quarter points in the 4 minutes Kuminga was on the floor, going from 11-9 to 26-15 in that span. By the end of the first half, the Timberwolves had only put up 37 points total. By all means, that game should have been over at that point. However, with no consistent ability to generate offense in the first half with the lineups that were on the floor, the Timberwolves were still in the game. Now, one of the reasons cited for Jonathan Kuminga not being in that starting lineup, a unit which needs his offense, is that he needs floor spacing to operate. Yet we see him come off the bench in a lineup next to GP2, Trace, and Pods. Now, Pods has been shooting better over his last few games. However, he's still not quite a three-point threat just yet, shooting only 27% on the season. The Warriors also rank 5th in teams blocked, a statistic that emphasizes the small stature of the Warriors compared to opponents. All these issues compounded, and we saw Minnesota actually come back and take the lead in the third quarter. Thanks to Schroeder playing some high IQ defense and Wiggins not letting his scoreless first half get to his head while still giving Edwards a hard time, the Warriors were able to prevail. This, however, was not without Kuminga giving the Warriors some change of pace in the offense in getting to the line, and not without Steph Curry having a great closeout game without the presence of Draymond Green. With GP2 rolling off the Steph Curry blitzes and finding Wiggins' weak side, we see the Timberwolves struggle to get stops near the end and allow the Warriors to improve the lead to double figures and secure the win. Great game by Wiggins, Steph, Schroeder, and Trace, who had 6 rebounds in the first 5 minutes of the game. Great improvement by Pods, who, if he continues to play this way, would be meaningful for the team going forward considering the number of minutes he plays. Things might have been different had the Warriors not been playing with house money, as the team won despite some of the tactics displayed. This particular game was won on the skill sets of the individual players and their efforts, and all credit to the hustle against a tough defensive team in the Minnesota Timberwolves. Does this win make the Warriors look good, or does it make the Timberwolves look bad? What are your thoughts on Kerr's lineups? Should the team trade Kuminga at this point, and would that be better for both sides? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But before you do that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. Thanks for watching. Till next time, swish.